Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's installment of the No Plastics for Lent series. We're going to give everyone a minute to make their way to this video. Thank you for joining. As you're settling in, would love for folks to introduce themselves in the chat. So you can share your name, your pronouns, where you're calling from. And then as we continue in this No Plastics for Lent journey together, would love to hear if you have an environmental spiritual practice that you're keeping. Let us know if you're trying to reduce your non-essential plastics consumption, if you are adopting a spiritual practice of prayer, if you are driving less. All of your examples are important and give all of us ideas. So please do share those ideas in the chat when you can. I am so excited to be joined by Sandra and Jordan today from the University of Maryland. I will introduce them in just a moment, but we want to offer a reminder of what this is, why we are gathered here. This series is called No Plastics for Lent. We are in the season of Lent, which is the 40 days leading to Easter, and it's a time when people often look back on the way that they're spending their days and the values that they have and the things that are drawing them away from God and from each other. So in that spirit, ELCA Young Adults is joining in solidarity with youth across the country and around the world in considering spiritual practices that root us in environmental justice, practices like fasting from non-essential plastics during this time. So we are excited for your participation, and we would love for you to be counted. So there is a sign-up form. Be sure to share your Lenten pledge, and we will share that in the chat. And when you sign up there, you can share what your practice is and also receive a weekly email that includes tips, resources, and a reminder to join these weekly live streams. So either bookmark that link for later or knock it out now if you can. And we are excited to get started with this week's conversation. Again, I'm joined tonight with Sandra and Jordan, who are environmental justice advocates and campus ministry leaders at the University of Maryland. So welcome, both of you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to this conversation.
Sure, I can go first. I'm Sandra. I'm a senior at UMD, graduating this semester studying English and German. I got involved in campus ministry my freshman year. One of my closest friends invited me and lovingly pestered me to come to campus ministry, and being part of that is how I got involved in a number of different social justice programs and really learning more about it. But one of the main ones is an environmental justice group, which is called the Friends of Guilford Run. And we've adopted a stream that runs in front of Hope Lutheran Church, which is where we meet as a ministry. And we actually all were able to socially distance get together yesterday to do a stream cleanup, which was the first of the year. So very exciting.
That's awesome.
I'm Jordan. I'm a freshman and an aerospace engineering major, and I am also a part of the Humble Walk, which is the Lutheran campus ministry here at UMD, and a student leader of Friends of Guilford Run. So I got involved with Humble Walk last semester when I knew it was going to be a hard first semester of college to make friends, but the Humble Walk has been so inclusive and welcoming of me, and I'm so grateful for that during this time.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. I love that you have gotten involved with campus ministry called the Humble Walk, and that has been an avenue for you into environmental justice, regardless and alongside your various academic interests. So I think it's a great example of how all of us are called into this ministry of creation care, and that might look different than our academic interest or professional vocation, and that we can all make change in those ways. So thank you. I'm excited to hear more about the spiritual practices that you've been keeping. This community is exploring new spiritual practices during Lent that ground us in environmental justice. So would love to learn from your wisdom of any spiritual practices that you keep that ground you in environmental justice too.
Sure. So due to the pandemic, the University of Maryland does not allow students to eat in the dining hall, which is good for some reasons, but it also has led to them offering single-use containers and lots of plastic silverware. So I decided to forego the plastics and bring my food back to my dorm or bring it to another location and use silverware that I have from home. And that it has caused me to need to do a little bit extra planning. And sometimes I bring my silverware around with me, but it definitely has been a good experience and has allowed me to make a small difference.
Love that.
Something for me, not necessarily new to Lent, but in terms of spiritual practices, I find God most often in conversations with other people. And one of the few ways to be with other people right now and during the pandemic has been taking walks, and there's a lot of walking trails around College Park. So being able to be with other people, and as cliche as it might sound, being in nature with other people, but using that time as time to rest and recharge, to be able to do the things that I want to do and that are important. But also a lot of our conversations tend to revolve around, issues that we see, whether it be locally or on larger scales. So it's not always strictly environmental justice related conversations, but having conversations about politics and, having conversations about things like racial justice and how that leads to conversations about environmental racism and what that looks like and what we can do, or conversations about, is there ethical consumption under capitalism, and having these really intellectual discussions, but ones that allow us to process and think about kind of what the tangible things are that we can do. Because I think sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in the like, oh, we can talk about this forever and ever and not do anything. But I do think there, is a place for having those conversations and getting that kind of rest to then recharge, to be able to go out and do the things that we want to do to make the differences that we want to make.
That's a really beautiful example. Both of your spiritual practices, I think, are thought-provoking and hopefully give others in the community ideas about kinds of practices of noticing of what's possible for you where you are, and where your energy is and what's connecting you with your spirituality and with your community. Which ties us really well into my next question, which is all about community, that you both have mentioned being a part of the campus ministry at the University of Maryland, and you mentioned Friends of Guilford Run, and that these are spiritual practices that are done with others. And so I'm interested in what difference has it made for you to pursue environmental justice in community?
So community for me has really encouraged and challenged me to look at my beliefs and reassess or rethink some things that I have always taken for granted. And as Sandra mentioned, we do a lot of walks and we try very hard to do safe in-person activities. And also the communities that I'm a part of with Humble Walk and Friends of Guilford Run are extremely welcoming. And that has allowed me to feel very comfortable inviting some of my friends who are in other communities in my life into Humble Walk or Friends of Guilford Run events. And that joining of my different communities really gives me strength and makes me feel like I'm a part of something bigger, and has allowed me to feel very good about what I'm doing and gives me encouragement to continue with the practices that we're doing.
I think for me, when I was a freshman, like a lot of coming to college was exploring, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be involved in, and what was important to me. And being part of these communities, it was actually a close friend of mine who was very much a mentor to me in my first couple of years of college, who invited me to be a leader in Guilford Run. And the Friends of Guilford Run it's a group of what started as Humble Walk students who adopted the stream that's in front of our church. And as part of that, to fulfill the adoption requirements, we do at least 4 stream cleanups a year, and we usually try and incorporate each semester. Humble Walk does a couple of mentoring and tutoring programs with local elementary school children who tend to come from at-risk families, and so one of the things that we do as Friends of Guilford Run is we try to meet up once a semester with this mentoring program and do a stream cleanup with the kids and talk to them a little bit about why it's important to care for the environment. And so I had someone bring me into that. And now as a senior, I met Jordan and I invited her to do this with me. And for me, being in community is also the comfort, not only of are you not doing this alone, but there's perpetuation there. And being in college where it is 4 years and then you graduate, there's also a lot of comfort that I find in faith and knowing that like Jordan's gonna find someone else, and what my friend was to me, and I now get to mentor Jordan, and then Jordan's gonna find someone to mentor, and then that person's gonna find someone to mentor. And that perpetuation of this is something that's important to me, but this is important to other people, and in working together, we get to further taking care of the stream and taking care of each other too.
That's so special. Thanks for raising that about like the power of invitation and being a part of a larger story that is the community now, but also the weaving of many years and the intergenerationality of working with children too. And it's really, really special. So thanks for all of your work volunteering and for sharing that. I have one more question. I mean, this year has been like none other, and we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of being in pandemic times and adapting our daily life to caring for the health of our communities. And so I'm wondering, what has it been like for you to be a college student in these times, to be a part of these programs during the pandemic? And how does that shape what you hope for the world that's to come in our recovery?
I know for me, the pandemic has definitely changed what being in college looks like. Classes moving online, lack of kind of in-person stuff. And in terms of some of these groups that I'm a part of and that we're a part of, being able to do that virtually and have those conversations, but then something tangible like the stream cleanup that we were able to do yesterday, it's a lot of making sure that we're doing things safely and doing it the right way and trying to find those ways to come together and still do tangible things and find ways to do those things. I think in terms of hopes for the future, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of kind of rhetoric of like, oh, the environment's healing now that people aren't out and about, and I'm sure people remember those pictures of like clean waters places and clean air. And I think recognizing that while there were some changes like that, knowing that the pandemic like there are a lot of people who have been very affected by this. And so, and then looking at kind of the lack of changes that have happened in terms of carbon emissions from major corporations and things like that, and recognizing the pandemic didn't save the environment, and people, for lack of a better term, population control is not the answer to environmental changes, and hoping that we can use this as an opportunity to make those tangible steps towards making a difference, and not passing it off as something that's going to happen on its own or happen through, you know, people passing away because of a global health crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, throughout this pandemic, it has definitely been lots of ups and downs, but I feel like through communities and through finding purpose, through environmental justice and the things we're doing, such as stream cleanups and these conversations, has definitely been a cornerstone and helped me remember that this is only a moment in the bigger picture. And as for my hopes as we go into recovery from this time period, I hope we continue to respect our caregivers, our first responders, our essential workers. It gives me hope that right now and during this time, people have come together to check on their neighbors and support small businesses. And I really hope that we don't forget how this feels and we continue remembering what's important.
Thank you for that. I so appreciate both of your time here and also your time throughout the school year and your leadership at the University of Maryland. I hope that folks who are watching who are also college students or are a part of campus ministries feel your solidarity and you feel theirs. As you said, it's nice to be a part of a network, and campus ministry is important in that way, and that you have each other and you also have the solidarity of so many. So I know I'm feeling inspired from everything that you shared. So thank you again, Sandra and Jordan. Folks listening in, please drop your praise and appreciation for both of them in the chat. And thank you again. I would love for folks to share any takeaways in the chat as well. What stood out to you from this conversation? What are you taking forward? Jordan and Sandra have also written a blog post that will go up this week. So be on the lookout for that, including discussion questions. That would be great for journaling or conversation with others. Maybe you can take a walk with a friend, as Sandra proposed, and start the conversation through invitation in that way. We will be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time for the next installment of this series. So we hope that we'll see you then. Please take care, everyone, in the meantime, and we'll see you next Sunday.